Jake Morrison had always believed life had two kinds of people, the ones who laughed quietly at the world's cruelty, and the ones the world laughed at. For most of his 30 years, Jake belonged to the second group, working long hours in a small auto shop, surviving on instant noodles, and pretending loneliness didn't bother him. So when he received an unexpected message inviting him to a fancy dinner with a perfect match, he thought maybe, just maybe, his luck was finally turning. What Jake didn't know was that across town, a group of wealthy adults were planning a cruel prank at his expense. Their goal? Film him walking into the most elite restaurant in the city and humiliate him online for views, but what they didn't know was that the woman involved in the setup, Victoria Ashford, had her own plans. Plans that had nothing to do with cruelty, and everything to do with teaching the right people the right lesson. When she walked into the restaurant holding her 3-year-old daughter's hand, everything changed. The prank, the assumptions, the power, they flipped in an instant. And by the end of the night, the only people exposed were the ones who thought they were untouchable. Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands, staring at the cracked screen of his phone for the third time. The message looked unreal among the tiny fractures. Hey Jake, remember me from high school? I know someone perfect for you. Smart, beautiful, and wants to meet you. Dinner tomorrow at the Riverside Club. Reservation made. Her name is Victoria. For a man who spent most nights alone in his apartment above a garage, the text felt like a spark in a dim room. Jake barely remembered Brad Cunningham, the sender, star quarterback, rich kid, always surrounded by a fan club of people who laughed at his jokes whether they were funny or not. Jake, meanwhile, spent those years balancing textbooks and tools, helping his mother keep the lights on. Still, it was a chance. And at 30, chances didn't come often. He typed back, sure. Sounds good. Across town, Brad and his friends were doubled over with laughter. He said yes. Brad shouted, waving the phone like a trophy. Imagine him walking in there, Trevor snickered. Grease stains, old boots, and Victoria looking like a supermodel. And she's actually going through with it? Marcus asked. Brad smirked. She loved the idea. She'll act disgusted and leave. We'll film everything. What Brad didn't know was that Victoria Ashford agreed to show up for reasons that had nothing to do with humiliating anyone. Jake stood outside the Riverside Club, painfully aware he didn't belong among the chandeliers and marble pillars. He had bought a new shirt, his first in months. His boots were polished. He'd scrubbed the grease off his hands until his skin stung that he reached for the door twice before pulling back. Then he remembered his mother's hopeful smile. You deserve happiness too, Jake. So he walked in, heads turned immediately. Whispers followed. Brad and his friends watched from their corner table, phones ready, grinning like wolves waiting for a sheep to wander too close. Jake almost walked out, then the doors opened. A tall young woman walked in wearing a cream dress that shimmered under the lights. Beside her, holding her hand, was a little girl in a matching dress, bouncing with excitement. The entire restaurant paused. The little girl spotted Jake instantly. Her face lit up like sunrise. Mommy. Is that him? Before anyone could react, she ran straight to him and grabbed his hand. Hi. I'm Emma. Mommy said we're meeting someone nice. Are you nice? Jake blinked, stunned, then knelt to her level. I try to be. Are you nice? I'm very nice, Emma replied seriously. Mommy says that's more important than money. Victoria reached them, smiling politely. You must be Jake. I'm Victoria. Sorry, Emma makes friends instantly. Jake was confused. This woman was not acting. There was no disgust, no cruel smirk. She looked genuinely kind. After they sat, Victoria took a breath. I want to be honest with you. Jake braced himself. Brad Cunningham contacted me. He asked me to participate in a prank. They plan to humiliate you. Jake felt heat crawl up his neck, but, Victoria continued, Brad made one mistake. He assumed I would enjoy the cruelty. Her eyes hardened. He doesn't understand me at all. She leaned forward. I looked you up, Jake. You run your uncle's shop. You treat customers with respect. You volunteer at the community center. You fixed a woman's car for free because she needed groceries more than repairs. I came tonight because I wanted to meet the kind of man who does those things. Jake stared, speechless. Emma nodded like a tiny judge. And you're nice. Grandpa says nice people are rare. The rest of dinner was surprisingly warm. Victoria asked thoughtful questions. Jake talked about cars, his mother, and his uncle's old shop. Emma told stories about preschool, cookies, and her grandpa's workshop. Across the room, Brad's table grew increasingly frustrated. Their prank was failing. Victoria returned from the restroom, and Jake asked, "So, what happens when we leave?" "Brad won't be happy." "Let him be unhappy," she said calmly. "People like him don't bother me anymore." She hesitated. "Jake, would you like to see me again? Properly. No audience. No setup." His heart thumped. "You'd want to see a mechanic again?" "I want to see someone honest," she replied. "Your job doesn't define your worth." Emma clapped eagerly. "And Jake can come to the park next time." They stood to leave. Brad stepped forward, red-faced. "Victoria, what was that?" "You were supposed to embarrass him." "I was supposed to bully a hard-working man for your entertainment," she replied coolly. "No, it was a joke," Brad snapped. "He's just a mechanic." "And you," Victoria said sharply, "are just a grown man who never learned kindness." Emma marched up to Brad, tiny but fierce. "You're mean. And you smell bad. And Jake is better than you." Gasps filled the restaurant. Brad leaned forward, angry. "You little," finished that sentence. A calm, powerful voice cut through the air. A man in his 60s stepped behind Brad. Distinguished. Sharp-eyed. Familiar, Victoria breathed. "Dad." "Robert Ashford, the founder of Ashford Technology." Brad froze. "Mr. Ashford, I didn't know you were here." "I heard everything," Robert said. "A group of adults mocking an honest man for sport. Shameful." He turned to Jake, offering his hand. "You repaired my driver's car last month. Excellent work." Jake shook his hand, stunned. Emma tugged her grandfather's sleeve. "Grandpa, this is Jake. He's not fake." Robert smiled warmly. "Then he's my kind of person." He faced Brad again. "You work at Kensington Consulting, correct? They do business with my company. I'll be speaking to your CEO." Brad's face collapsed. "Please, Mr. Ashford, leave," Robert ordered. Brad and his friends practically sprinted out the door. Robert turned back to Jake. "I apologize for what happened. People like Brad forget that real strength comes from character, not wealth." Jake nodded, unsure what to say. Victoria stepped beside him. "Dad, Jake and I were planning to meet again. Maybe we could all have coffee sometime." Robert smiled. "I'd like that." Emma grabbed Jake's hand again. "And next time, can we go to the park?" Jake laughed softly. "We'll see." As they walked out of the restaurant together, the chandeliers glowed behind them, but for the first time in years, Jake felt a different kind of warmth, hope, not because he'd been invited into a world of chandeliers and fancy dinners, but because someone saw him, because kindness mattered more than money, because character mattered more than cruelty, and because, against all odds, one simple dinner meant something far bigger than a prank. It meant possibility. A new chapter, not forced, not fake, not expected, just real, and that was worth everything.